the 5 basic omoplata mechanisms. Now, this is not all the ways to get into the omoplata. There's ways to jump into the omoplata, spin into the omoplata, invert into the omoplata, but most omoplatas happen from guard. Let's say 70% of omoplatas happen from guard. And of those that happen from guard, most of these happen with these basic leg mechanisms. So I'd like to show them to you, then I can refer to them later. The first one is a swinging one. I used to really like this, mostly because it looked cool, and I hardly ever use it nowadays. The swing omoplata is best exemplified by a drill that I used to do, where my partner puts an arm down on the ground, and I kind of swing myself to that side and here. Now he straightens himself up. I come here, he conveniently feeds the arm the other way, and we go back and forth, and I'm doing it without hands, and I'm looking real cool, and all the students are impressed. And yeah, okay, maybe it's useful to just develop basic familiarity. Certainly looks cool. Teaching me lots of bad habits. It's teaching me not to use my hands. It's teaching me not to be tight. It's also not a mechanism that you use very often. I think maybe in this instructional we'll use it maybe one time. So that's a swinging one. I think it's a great way for white belts to maybe submit white belts. But once you get up to blue belt level, higher, this kind of mechanism stops working for the most part. And of course, as soon as I say that, somebody's going to go win. I would be happy with it because that's just the nature of the sport. The second mechanism is what I call the turret. Basically, my legs are like 2 guns, and one way or the other, they're going to rotate like this. We're here. I'm going to rotate the bent leg till it's facing towards his head. Most of the time that you use the turret mechanism, it has to be with a gi. Without the gi, if I'm rotating here with a bent leg, my friend here, 32-time Mongolian national sambo champion, Richie, is just going to stand up or pull his arm out. I need a way to keep his posture broken. And basically the best way to do that is with a lapel grip. We're here. Now it's really hard for him to stand up. And I end up triangling my legs while keeping that hand. Literally, my legs are triangled and I'm reaching through my own legs to keep that lapel gripped. So it's very useful. You can use it no gi. There are certainly situations where you end up using it no gi, but most of the time you end up using it with the gi, especially when you have that lapel or some other mechanism like a spider guard hook on this side to keep his posture completely broken. If I can keep him down here by stepping on his foot here, then I can pivot nicely here without worrying about him standing up, getting back to his feet, and doing some crazy Russian sambo throw. Next motion I call racking the shotgun. When you've got a shotgun and you rack it, you're bringing a shell up into the chamber. This is a very similar motion to that pump action. What I'm going to be doing is kicking my leg through and then back up. That's part 1 of the rack. This is part 2 of the rack. You're going to use this all the time. Functionally what I'm doing is I'm taking my thigh here and I'm hitting Richie's arm like this. Now again, I'm not trying to break his arm like that. I'm going to twist his arm down somewhat, and now, even with a slight angle, that's automatically going to turn it. I can do this with a sleeve grip. I can do this with an elbow cup grip. There's a million ways I can use this motion. The important thing is I'm going to go here, here, and I'm going to try to get that foot on the hip. That is not always going to work. If I can get that foot on the hip and clamp my knees together, making a shoulder sandwich, my knee, his shoulder, a little bit of his face, my knee, then I can really begin to turn my body. Sometimes, in the course of rolling, that's not going to go exactly smoothly. You're going to come here, and you can end up with your leg across his body. That's why it's called a martial art, not a martial science. It's not necessarily going to go exactly the way that you want it every time. This isn't as good as foot on the hip. Yes, my foot is closer to being across his head, but if he wants to drive into me and make posture, I have less ways to prevent it. Whereas if I'm here with a foot on the hip and very much turned, there's more weight on him. So this is ideal, like you're climbing a coconut palm, clamping his hip here. This sometimes happens And you just have to deal with it. You have to then try to move as fast as you can into the next position. The racking of the shotgun is super powerful, and I use it all the time. Fourth mechanism is the Crescent Kick. This is a fast mechanism. It's used by some really good people, Marcelo Garcia, most notably, and it can be dangerous. If Richie's arm is straight and I wanted to break his elbow, I would kick his elbow while holding his wrist like this. This is not what I want you to do. What I want you to do is have his arm just turned a little bit, and I'm going to kick my foot flat to the floor here. So we're here, we're fighting. I see my window of opportunity. There. This is fantastic because I've done a great job of taking his arm out of alignment. I've pretty much destroyed his base. So I've already quite disrupted his alignment. And now I sit up. So that Crescent Kick, where you are doing this motion with almost a straight leg, maybe manipulating his arm just a tiny bit to rotate it, and then kicking up behind the biceps and the triceps, is a really effective mechanism. For completeness, I do have to mention the fifth mechanism, which is that whole rubber guard approach to jamming your foot in front of the guy's face and getting an omoplata out of the guard. This is not a style of guard that I play anymore. I used to, up until it damaged my knee. I don't think that one should play rubber guard unless you can put both of your legs behind your own head. I used to only be able to put one of my legs behind my own head at a time, and I ended up jacking my knee doing some omoplata stuff, actually. But I do have to admit that there are a lot of people who make rubber guard entries to the omoplata work. So if you're super flexible, if you can put both your legs behind your head, cool. Go investigate those whole entries, that whole family of rubber guard entries, and there's a whole bunch of them. And then just use the finishes I'm going to show you, use the counters I'm going to show you, use the counters to the counters I'm going to show you. I don't bend this way anymore. I can't even do a bad job of demonstrating it. Those are the 5 basic mechanisms. 1, wild swing. Number 2, turret. Number 3, racking the shotgun. Number 4, crescent kick. Number 5, all that rubber guard black magic that we're not going to talk about today. In reality, these 5 mechanisms merge. You might have something that's 80% of a crescent kick that kind of evolves into a racking the shotgun motion. You might have something that's a swinging motion that then turns into a rubber guard type thing. You might have something that starts as a racking the shotgun and then evolves into the turret mechanism. They are going to merge, but it's important to know them in their pure form initially. Then what expresses itself when you're rolling with a partner, when he's resisting, when your body didn't do exactly the right thing, that's just going to come out in the course of rolling. The more familiar you become with the mechanisms, the more familiar you become with the entries and the follow-ups, your body is naturally going to find the right thing to do.